Hey guys, so we're exactly 1 week into the Settlers of Kalguur League, and I figured I'd make a final endgame update for my league starter. I uploaded some T17 gameplay 1 or 2 days ago, and I've been farming some T17s. I just did an Uber Cortex, which I will put at the end of this video to show some bossing as well. My setup looks pretty close to what I thought my endgame setup would look like in the League Starter video, but I did end up making a few changes, so I'll just go over all my gear and gems and my current passive tree at 97. If you want to check out some leveling trees for the build, you can look at the original League Starter video. But basically, you can just level asunder all the way through the campaign and even in early maps. So yeah, I'll just go over my gems first. I'm using Rage Vortex, the regular version, with Pulverize, Impale, Awakened Melee Fizz, Awakened Brutality, and Overexertion. So basically, this is a Warcry stacking build, using Overexertion and Echoes of Creation to get a bunch more damage for your Rage Vortex. That's the main setup for Rage Vortex. I'm using Battle Mage's Cry and Enduring Cry. Of course, with the Battle Mage's Cry, I'm applying Vulnerability. And then I have Urgent Orders to make them faster. That's the first Warcry setup. It doesn't really matter that much which setup you put in the Echoes of Creation. They do get one more cooldown use, so I like to put Enduring Cry here at least. And then you have the other Warcry setup in the 5-link, which is Intimidating Cry, Rallying Cry, Infernal Cry, and then I have Life Tap with this setup and Urgent Orders to make them faster, of course. I have one craft to make it cheaper, but with Life Tap, mana isn't really an issue. And I have a Mana Leech gem, or sorry, socket, not socket, jewel here. So that's the Warcry setup. Then I have Blood Rage for Frenzy Charges. I also have Frenzy Charges on my chest here, which is for bossing. This together with the Mastery makes sure you have 100% uptime. Then I have Molten Shell on cast when damage taken, and I have faster attacks on my Leap Slam as my main movement skill, and then I have Frost Blink as my other movement skill. If you find it's too many keybinds, you could pick just one movement skill. But it's nice to have the option to have an instant skill like Frostblink to move around with. Then I'm using Herald of Purity with Pride and Blood and Sand. Blood and Sand, I'm mostly in Sand Stance for more AoE, but occasionally if you want to burst them down, you can go to Blood Stance. And Herald of Purity, this is mainly because we're running Rallying Cry, which gives more damage if you have some allies near you. But it's also some damage on its own, and then, yeah, Pride. So that's it for the gems. For the gear, like I said, I'm using Echoes of Creation to give more damage on exerted attacks. This also makes it so when you attack, you take a lot of fizz damage. So having a high armor chest is pretty important to mitigate this damage. Also keeping your endurance charges up with Enduring Cry, but that's really easy. As you can see, all my charges have 20-second duration, so and all your war cries basically feel instant when you have Urgent Orders. So yeah, you need a decent amount of physical damage reduction to be able to use this helm, but it gives a ton of damage, and once you have good PDR, you don't notice the damage really. And then I just have a pretty standard axe. This is 900 PDPS. I was using Kingmaker before that just because it was a cheap axe, but yeah, any axe will work pretty much. You just want as high PDPS as possible. And then I'm using Soul Tether for Overleech, which is a nice way to make sure you don't degen too much from Rite of Ruin. And it's also just really nice to have Overleech, and it lets you have a pretty good recovery, stacking some increased leech cap. I also have 10% instant leech here, which actually gives us some use for the energy shield from Immortal Ambition. When you can keep it up, it degens pretty fast, but it's yeah, it's something at least. So that's Soul Tether. Getting a corruption here is pretty useful. I have 14 all res. I'm also using actually Aliras as the bandit choice. So because yeah, when you try to get a lot of chaos resistance, which you always want pretty much, the elemental resistances can be a little bit annoying sometimes. So yeah, and that's basically all you want for the rares on this build. Like you can see on the rings here, you want one Warcries cannot exert travel skills, so you can leap around because you're using the minimum power mastery. But yeah, you just want life, resistances, and chaos res. Having open prefixes on gloves and on the neck is pretty good because you can get increased damage while leeching, and you're always leeching with overleech. You'll want some extra dexterity and intelligence on your build, just for gem purposes. So I have dex here and some int here. And then the boots looks like this. Avoid being shield is pretty good. I'm running the Pantheon, Solo the Brine King, and Garukon. I have Extinguish on my gloves, which kind of helps against ailments. You could also get Intimidate here and drop these nodes, try to get a cluster or something like that, or go for a last endurance charge here. And then you want hits have a chance to ignore enemy PDR, which is pretty good. You have 50% here, and then you have these small nodes give 20%, and then you have 30% here, which is 100%. So then you don't have to worry about physical resistant monsters or anything like that. Then on the chest, yeah, you just want high armor. You want physical damage reduction roll on the suffixes, and that's pretty much it. This one is not particularly great. I don't have any life on it, so I can run the mastery, 50% maximum life if you have no life mods. Blocking spell damage is okay. It's we don't really run suppression. I mean, we have 10% here, but yeah, getting some spell mitigation for multiple hits is pretty good. So it's something at least. For the implicits here, 10 fist taken as fire is just some decent physical mitigations. And then you want the frenzy charge every 15 seconds, like I mentioned before, in order to have your frenzy charges up on bosses. But if you're mostly doing mapping, which I didn't get this until very recently, I was just running Blood Rage. But if you want with this setup, I guess you could also drop Blood Rage if you want to include some other gem for whatever reason. But yeah, and then I'm using Warcry speed and maximum fire res on the boots. For the flasks, I'm running instant life flask with CB and the bleed immunity. I have a quartz flask with armor, reduced shock effect here, just to complement the 60% here for 100%. Curse reduction here on the Quicksilver. Of course, this is a granite. And then I have a silver flask. The block reduction, stun block and stun recovery, I don't know if it does that much, but that's what I'm using right now. I'd like to get for bossing the gain 3 charges when you're hit by an enemy. If I decide to keep playing this character and do more bossing, I would like to get that suffix on all of them, but it doesn't really matter. As long as you get increased duration or reduce charges used for the suffix, it's whatever. But yeah, that's it for the gear, the flasks, and the gems. The tree looks like this. Again, if you want to see some leveling trees, you can check out the original League Starter video. Don't think there's too much to say here. Running Resolute Technique. Yeah. This crit mastery is not that important. You have some flexible nodes to play around with. These life nodes you don't exactly need. Like I said, you might want to go up here for the endurance charge. You might want to get a cluster jewel. This is the setup I'm running right now. Looks pretty close to what I originally envisioned in the League Starter video. Oh yeah, so my Ascendancy points, I ended up switching out Aspect of Carnage for Defy Pain. And yeah, it's just for T17s, you take a lot of damage when you have this. And we still have something like, I don't know exactly what it is, 16, 18 million DPS, even without it. So I think the damage is good without Aspect of Carnage, but I did use this early on. But yeah, for T17s, I'm using the 5 Pain. You almost never reach 10 Defiance. But yeah, getting some armor and some increased leech is really nice. Again, since we have overleech, it's actually pretty good defensively. I decided not to try to go for a crit setup with Flawless Savagery, but that's something you could do. So I'm running Warbringer for twice as many excerts. It's just a quality of life thing. I guess you could drop this and play Aspect of Carnage. It's an alternative, but then you're gonna be pressing your Warcries twice as often, which we don't attack that much, but at least not during bossing. But during mapping, you do attack quite a bit. So I like having Warbringer. And then of course, Crave the Slaughter and Rite of Ruin. If you're leveling the character, you would start with Crave the Slaughter, and then Rite of Ruin, then Warbringer, and then lastly the 5 Pain. And again, you could use Aspect of Carnage for any non-T17 content, but it's nice for if you want to try to get some levels as well to just not die as much. So that's the Ascendancy points. So yeah, that's pretty much it. About the playstyle, I'm using these Warcries grant 1 rage per 5 enemy power, up to 5. I have 10 enemy power, or sorry, 10 minimum power with this, so at the start of each map, you just press all your Warcries, and then you can throw your first Rage Vortex, and then when it starts hitting enemies, you have so much Rage and hit that you reach max Rage very quickly. So yeah, that's pretty much it about the character. I know a lot of people have been following along with me, following some of the updates. I hope you have enjoyed playing this character. Like I said, I might continue playing it, but I like to reroll and play different characters, so I'm probably done here. But yeah, this is a last sort of update for the build. So for some of you who are still maybe in early maps or whatever, this is something you can aim towards. Of course, you can build for a lot better gear than this, like mirror tier gear or whatever. I'm not sure exactly what that would look like. If I were to run some Forbidden Flame Jewels, I would probably run something from Juggernaut to get maybe the +1 endurance charge, or maybe the double armor from your body armor. That could be something. But yeah, not gonna ramble on too long. There's gonna be a boss kill at the end of the video, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. Thanks, guys.
Bye.